Land of Dreams is a story that takes place in the near future in America, in a small town, and basically follows the journey of an Iranian woman with a difficult political past from her native country, and trying to make her life in America, and takes a job at American Census Bureau, which in a very satirical way is collecting American people's dreams. Simin, the main character, becomes obsessed with her position as a dream catcher, and the more she gets involved in visiting American people's homes and understanding their nightmares and dreams, the more she becomes aware of the conspiracy of the American government and the administration in a way of controlling people's minds. And consequently, she has her own transformation as a person who's able to make peace with her past and the present. The casting of the film was really an interesting process. I was very much impressed by Sheila Vand, who was an actress that I had seen in a film called The Girl Who Walks Home Alone at Night. She's an Iranian woman who was mainly raised in the US, so I knew that she embodied the character of Simin in the film. But in choosing the other characters, for example, Matt Dillon, who is a very iconic American actor, felt perfectly in the role of Alan, who is this very macho, arrogant, sort of a modern cowboy, handsome man. And I felt that Matt Dillon really fit that description. And William Mosley opposite was this very pretty, gentle, soft man who also was his counterpart. And then finally, I've been wanting to work with people like Isabella Rossellini for many years, who's been a friend. And so it felt like the construction of the film demanded that every household had its own main important cast, and that were the more dominant actors. So we worked with Anna Gunn, Christopher McDonald, a number of different American actors that I've never had an opportunity to work with. And again, each one of them took charge of the different households. I think Land of Dreams is my most personal work I've ever done in film or art, in a way that the main character becomes my own alter ego, and that she is an Iranian immigrant and happened to be an artist, a photographer, and she happened to be someone who's been traumatized by a difficult political past and has been always conflicted between her Iranian and American identity, and always an outcast. And so I feel that you know, when I went to New Mexico to photograph those, you know, those pictures of portraits, and later it was me who went door to door to people, introducing myself and asking them if they would allow me to shoot in their film and for them to be in the film. So she ultimately played me, and so I think also I am an Iranian who knows the United States really well. I know the American culture extremely well, but I'm still very alienated from the American culture. So there's this distance between the protagonist, Simin, and the Americans. There's this always constant distance, which I think it's a reality about me and my own life and my own relationship to that country. And I think that I brought everything that I have in me in terms of my experiences and also emotional and political foundation to the film. I think we live at a moment in America, unlike any moment that I can recall, that there is quite a bit of shift and unrest. Economically, politically, there's a great divide between the liberals and the conservatives, and we also had the racial protest, and we had quite a bit of pressure on immigrants and and this whole idea of the rise of white supremacists and the idea of purification of America, and we also had the pandemic. So I was very interested in what our Americans from different ethnic and racial backgrounds were thinking about, and because I believe that dreams are projections of our fears. So this film really became, in a very absurd and humorous way, a way to tap into people's subconscious, Americans' subconscious. Yes, I think the Iranians and Americans can learn from each other that ultimately we're all humans, and we're conditioned to different political structures and different religions and different languages, but our issues of religion, fanaticism, corruption, tyranny are not that different. And I think Land of Dreams is really truly an expression of that, how much we as people, regardless of where we come from, particularly today where there are global issues, we have in common. Originally, when I came up with the concept for the Land of Dreams artwork and film, Shoja and I met with Jean-Claude, and we began this collaboration. So from the inception, Shoja was involved. And eventually, once the characters were born and Jean-Claude gave it all he could, he passed it on to Shoja in terms of the script level. And then, of course, I was always very involved. Once in New Mexico, Shoja also was very, very involved working with the actors. And ultimately, Shoja, who knows me as a visual artist, and you know, he knows very much my weaknesses and strengths, and he supports me in every way he can. And so I could say, without his involvement, this film would not have been possible. And the actors very much understood the nature of our collaboration and respected that and accepted it. One of the greatest gifts in my life was to work with the legendary Jean-Claude Carrier, who I had the pleasure that he worked, his last film was Land of Dreams, last script that he worked on. We started the collaboration, I believe, in 2017, 2018, and he passed away in January of 2021. The greatest gift was that Jean-Claude, as established and recognized as he was so humble, and he always told me, we open doors, and if it doesn't work, we close the door and open another door. And he was deeply interested in the story because his wife was also Iranian. He was a great interest in American culture, as he had spent a lot of time there, but he liked the absurdity of the idea, the surrealism of the original concept that I came up with. And so initially we worked a number of years, and he developed the characters such as Alan and Mark, and you know, many of the households were created by him. And then later on, after the third or fourth draft, he passed it on to us, where Shoja Azari then took over. He worked primarily with me, but Jean-Claude was always very involved. But I think many moments in the film are so Jean-Claude, so Buñuel-like, and I just, he's so present in the film, and the sense of humor, and something that I don't usually have a lot of humor. So it was also great because Jean-Claude was such a great storyteller, and when you worked with him, he told you all kinds of stories about his working relation with fantastic filmmakers, actors, and he was a mentor, a teacher, and so respectful of us, even though we were so small next to him. I will really forever remember his humility and humbleness more than anything else. And the last thing I want to say was that the Native Americans were a very big part of my interest, as I had never ever met Native Americans as long as I have lived in the United States. And I wanted to give importance to the Native Americans in the video and in the film. So and the Film Commission told us that the reservations are not really open to welcoming for film productions and, you know, artists, but we met some of the natives and they were so welcoming, and they invited us, and the person who played the role of the native is not an actor, is actually someone I met, and he made the introduction, and he helped us get to know many of the people and be able to get the rights to film in the Navajo Nation. So that was really a highlight of our experience filming in New Mexico, getting to know the natives and working with them. Another thing I wanted to say to you, that part of the charm of the pandemic was that we absolutely had to use everything we had in our resources. For example, very often, even though we had extras, we had cast, and we had paid them, but because their test result had not come in yet, even though they were negative, legally we were not able to film until certain things happened. So we would be on a shoot and we would literally missing a few people. So I would put on red hair with a white dress and I would be dancing and singing. Or in the colony, we had to have a female, older female revolutionary woman as a teacher, and we couldn't have the woman come, especially that part of New Mexico, which was very harsh. So I had to memorize the line and play the role. And so there was, I think, 3 different times that I played, and many of the crew, for example, they had to also, my assistant, for example, played the role of a man. Oh, also I was one of the people holding the gun on top of the colony at night, or Shoja Azari. So many of us had to basically improvise, immediately put on the costume and join the, and also I was in the Census Bureau as one of the staff. And this was really very interesting, that we had to just help the film the best we could. I think the most important message of the film for me is the realization that all of us, regardless of where we come from and the kind of political structure that we're living under, we're faced with incredible amount of control and surveillance, and it's very troubling to know that our destiny is basically in the hand of a few people of power, and how much control do we take as individuals? How much responsibility are we willing to accept to realize that we as people also have power to bring change, and that comes with love of other people, caring for other people, not only people who come from the same country, same culture, and same religion and ethnicity, but for all people. And I think no time better than today. Our situation has been more global between the pandemic and the political upheaval, such as what we're seeing in the war between Ukraine and Russia. We're witnessing innocent people's lives fall apart because of certain political players and like a chess game, and it's their lives that is at stake. And I think that in Land of Dreams, whether it's the poor Iranian people who are incarcerated in a camp, in a colony, who have this vision of something good for their country, or the Americans who are under deep deception by their own government, who's corrupt, we are facing very similar issues. I think that's the message of the film, that we as people need to take individual responsibility, to love other people, to care for other people, and to stop the control that is unfair and political injustice. And I think we have more power than we think we do. And finally, I think as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a visual artist, I feel like my role is to make stories and films and artwork that resonate in the way that makes people think, and it's not just about entertainment, but it's about moving them emotionally, fulfilling them artistically, meaning that making a good work of film, but at the same time raising consciousness, because the film is deeply politically charged. And I just really hope that the film works in different layers, and obviously it's not just serving one culture or one audience.